this computer. All right, so let me go back, do the introduction real quick, and then I'll come right back to you. Okay, come here. My apologies for this. I'll get it right yet. I don't do these very often, so let's see if I can. All right, so again, because I was not recording, this is a late 16th, early 17th century living history meetup where the topic today is going to be events, what makes a good event, what doesn't, and come here. Oh, come on. Of course. My internet connection is. All right. Let's try this again. All right. So, and these are our questions here, all going around what makes a good event and what doesn't, and what you want from an event. So let me go ahead now that I've gotten the introduction out of the way. We're coming back to Harry, who's telling us and disappointing us greatly that he has not been to a living history event yet. But just real quick, what were you saying?
Yes,
before?
but well, I was a carer from 2005 until 2021 for my grandparents who adopted me when I was a small baby. Unfortunately, they both died during the pandemic in the past year. But I've always had an interest in history. And before the pandemic started, we had a parliament that wouldn't do anything doing because no one had a majority. And someone said on the internet, oh, this is a useless parliament. And someone asked, okay, is this a useless parliament? Has there been a worse parliament? And I thought, okay, I'll have a look. And it turns out there has been. There was the parliament that was so useless, it was officially called useless. It was the useless parliament of August 1625 to September 1625, when King Charles I tried to get legislation through and Parliament said, nope, you're not going to, matey. Oh, and because I've had an interest in elections for a while, I thought, okay, why did they not like him? The answer was, of course, it was the forerunner of the Civil War. So because of the fact I was a carer, and in Britain, carers are paid, well, not even paid at all. We paid about 64 pence, about 80 cents an hour for our caring duties. I thought, right, if someone is managed to make millions by turning the Twilight series of books into 50 Shades of Grey, then I have the opinion, what I know about history and elections, I should be able to do the same. So I took what I knew about the 17th century workings of Parliament and tried to find something that was happening at the same time, and came across the fact that the Three Musketeer books are set in the same time period, 1625 onwards. So I thought, okay, let's put the two together. And as I was doing all the research into this, I thought, hang on, this is intriguing. So I just put idly into the internet, are there organizations who reenact history? And the answer is there are. So I thought, oh, right, well, in that case, that sounds interesting. So I said, I have an interest in the 17th century. Would you have me? And an organization calling themselves the Marquess of Winchester's Regiment, part of the English Civil War Society, said, yes, we're holding an event in Hampshire towards the end of October in 2019. Would you like to come? And I said, certainly. So I popped along down there to have a look, and I was absolutely amazed. It was a reconstruction of a sort of military establishment of the 1640s. And I thought, this is wonderful. Where have you been all my life? So I joined them, and then guess what happened?
COVID.
Exactly, COVID. So all of that was abandoned. However, I am pleased to say I joined them. I am still a member of them, and in a fortnight or so's time, I will be at Blenheim Palace in Oxfordshire, attending my first ever event with them.
Oh, well, you have to take pictures.
And well, that could be a tricky thing because unfortunately they are very strict.
I
If it wasn't in the 17th century, it can't be happened. I can't even take a container of orange squash with me, which is going to be awkward.
well, I'll get to something in a bit, which I'm actually with them on that. I'm going to jump to now Heidi. So and let's understand we got a fair amount of material to cover. So
I'll be brief.
yeah, so let's
Yes.
and I think I lost Sophia. Um,
So,
go ahead, Heidi.
okay, so so I have an interesting answer to this question, but I've got a really good reason. So my favorite living history event was not actually a living history event, it was an SCA event. But I'll tell you why it was my favorite, because I have done living history events. The SCA, when Tim and I, we lived in Wisconsin for a couple of years, and we really got involved with our local SCA chapters because it was history, but it was also, and this is super important to me and to a lot of people, very family friendly. We could bring our kids out, which is important because we don't have parental assistance. We could bring our kids out to events with us, and they were made to feel welcome. My experience at living history events, almost without fail, every single one of them that I have attended with my children, we were made to feel very unwelcome because we could not appropriately outfit our children. And we did the best we could. And I mean, you know me, I did the absolute best I could. But shoes were an issue because nobody makes period shoes for kids that are accessible. And so, you know, I mean, my husband actually, he coordinated an event. It was early modern muster of arms at Fort Wayne. And he did that for 2 years. And it's an early 17th century event. And yeah, you know, I mean, it was great. It was immersive. There was, they had very strict, and see, I don't know, man, I'm a lover. I'm just like, you know, I welcome everyone. We're all at different places on our historical journey. And I really enjoy welcoming people who maybe, you know, are just brand new to the hobby. As far as I'm concerned, you can all eat at my table. You know, let's all share our love of history. Let's all just be giant dorks together. In my experience, though, living history events, especially the very strictly juried ones, tend to be very exclusive, not super welcoming, a little judgy. So that's my own personal flavor, and that's why, you know, when Tim and I throw our events, we make a dedicated effort to be welcoming to people of all communities, of all backgrounds. And so that's why my favorite living history event is actually an SCA event, because they were so kind to us and so wonderful and welcoming. And it was cool for my kids to like get sick of the period shoes and put on their sparkly tennis shoes, and we could still participate. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay.
And that's my why. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. And by the way, for those who don't know Heidi, she does some incredible sewing work. I'm just blown away by the stuff she does.
You were too kind.
I am impressed. And your husband has, man, I think his song should be Sharp Dressed Man, honestly.
He's he certainly he loves what he does.
Yeah. If you have a chance, look, you know, can find Tim Garano. He has some incredible kit. Anyway, I'm going to jump next to Gus.
Hello.
Hey, you've done a lot of stuff, a lot of living history stuff. So if you had to pick one event, what's been your favorite event and why?
Okay, I want to say the best and the favorite one that I've ever done was in Louisiana. They were doing it at a F&I fort in Natchitoches, Louisiana. And so normally they've had, you know, the Cajun folks show up and they dress up French and Indian War style. Me and a buddy, we're doing period Spanish. And they said, oh my gosh, come on over because you guys are definitely part of our. So that was great because you had one team who's used to just having their team show up. Finally, they have the opposition team show up. There was a lot of eating to be done. And then we decided, okay, we're not going to show up empty-handed. We actually went off and we brought some like beans that had jalapeno in them. But when you got a lot of Cajuns and they were given a bunch of bland stuff and they're used to eating fiery stuff, when they got these beans with the jalapeno in it, they loved it. If we had known ahead of time how much they were going to love it, we'd have brought more. So the fact that we made that, nice, gesture to them and they appreciated it was great. We also, because it was Christmas time, we decided just for the goof of it, we brought like a period piñata, and they got into it in a big way because they had never experienced a piñata before. And so we strung the thing up and they were trying to kill this thing and they couldn't. And I don't know why, but it was funny. And this was around the time of Gladiator. And so because they couldn't kill this piñata, after a while you have all these drunk Cajuns who are starting to chant Spaniard, Spaniard as they're trying to kill this piñata and they cannot do it. So just the overall, get together, the camaraderie, the fact we broke bread, the fact we had things to do. I mean, all day, of course, we had people coming by, locals who were there seeing us dressed up. And we had stuff to do with them. All that combined together made for a really, really great, memorable event. Because I've been to events where they've invited people, hey, come on over, show up, go out of your way. We kid it out, we show up, and there's nothing to do. Either people aren't showing up as far as public is concerned, or there's really nothing for the people who are participating to do. We just stand around and, well, we look pretty, but there's not really much going on. So I think that for that one reason, the fact that we had all these things going on at that one event is what made it, my favorite.
Cool. Let's see here. I'm going to go to Sophia, then Theron, and then Christopher. So Sophia, you've just started.
I attended these 3 events, right? So what I was really liked and loved and was stunned was Bretagne because of a few reasons for that, right? So the first one was a location, perfect location. This little fortress town totally surrounded by still fortifications, water, and green. So the civilization was kind of shut out, except for the visitors. Okay. So there were no roads, no cars, no whatever, right? Just this green and beautiful brick houses, and so that was really cool. It was not too big, so you could easily walk around, visit everyone without just having to walk quite long distances, like in Groll, for example. So, and I think there were also some noise.
Yeah, Heidi, I muted you. I muted Heidi. I think she's got kids. She's
there was a number of quite high quality groups, so it was kind of giving really a nice 17th century impression and feeling, right? It was just the atmosphere and the location, everything was kind of perfect in a way, right? I was just before Corona, I was in Groll, and that was my first event, and I was just walking around like stoned, right? You had like 2,000-3,000 or more people in 17th century dress, and it was my first event. I could just not believe it, right? So that was also nice, but it's bigger and it's kind of different, right? But Bretagne is really a nice, small, relatively small, not too big, but not too small, right? So it just was just perfect.
Cool.
And what I haven't unfortunately found yet, what I would also like to attend to is more like kind of balls and banquets and that kind of stuff, right? I didn't find that really yet. So there's all these military and battle, which I also love, right? But I would like to have kind of all aspects of the 17th century, and what I also would love to see more are horses, because I'm horse rider, obviously. So
horse
I love stuff, and that's of course difficult in some locations, right, to have horses. And I understand this because I'm a horse myself, but horses just kind of belonging to the 17th century, right? It kind of would round up the whole picture, right, and make it kind of nice.
Before we get done today, I want to ask you about 17th century cavalry and stuff like that. So hang on a second here. Letting more people in. So but yeah, Groll is one I want to check out. I've seen so many wonderful pictures of it. So, but yeah, let's.
Really, I mean, I cannot tell because I haven't been at too many events. But what isn't Groll really nice? The whole town is is with it, right? So all the inhabitants in the city center, they have these camps in front of their houses, fires, they're cooking. So it's like not only the reenactors coming, it's the whole place which is just going crazy for 17th century. It's really nice because it kind of, you feel very welcome, right? You're not just reenacted going somewhere, but you have the feeling that the whole place is buzzing, right, with 17th century. That's really nice.
Wow.
And then that was quite nice, and there's music all over the place, and it's just also nice. But it's different to Bretagne, and it's really big, right? So you and I didn't know anyone at that time, so I was just able to walk around and just absorb it, right? If I would go now, I will go now in October. I know some people, so it will be probably more kind of, oh, I want to meet this person and this person, so I will have a bit more kind of that type of thing. But the first time I could really just soak it up, right, and enjoy.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Amazed.
I'm going to come back to you, like I said, about Calvary stuff. And I'm going to go to Theron next. So, Theron, what's been your favorite event and why?
So this is kind of tricky because I've got 36 years of SCA events, and the SCA is definitely not living history. You know, we're much more of a, you know, I love it. It's my life hobby, but it's much more of a historical combat LARP is kind of how I look at it.
Fair enough.
And I don't use LARP in a derogatory way.
Right.
You know, we have very low equipment standards. So the things that I look to get out of an event are less about immersion in the actual history than in those moments that take me out of the 21st century and put me in, you know, where I'm seeing the world through the eyes of someone in the past.
Right.
And probably the biggest one of that, it wasn't at all an early modern event, but it was one we did many years ago, the group in San Antonio, Texas, where we did a tournament. It was essentially a high medieval themed tournament. We had a wonderful site where there were no cars, there was no traffic. If you didn't look up, there weren't any airplanes overhead. You know, we were in this little valley in a campsite that you had to drive down into to dump your stuff off and then go park elsewhere.
Mhm.
And the way that it was constructed was to encourage, you know, in this case, since it was a high medieval tournament, chivalric behavior, you know, all of the King Arthur stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing, you know, I think we probably had about 200 people at the event total. Maybe half of them were fighting, but just seeing the way they absorbed that, they got into it. It wasn't one of the problems you have in the SCA is a lot of our tournaments are terribly modern. You go out, you fight best 2 out of 3, double elimination tournament. We weren't doing that. We were having people have ransoms, you know, to pay to people who had beaten them, and it was entirely judged by the assembled nobles, you know, who decided these are the ones who did the best this day.
Mm-hmm.
And we had, you know, and it was intentionally very Arthurian. And that was one of the ones where it was cool when it was dark and we were, you know, just lit by fires and you could hear a little bit of drums off in the distance and such. You know, it was just one of those moments where you're transformed. So for me, that tends to be what I look for in SCA events, are those little transformative moments. I'm not going to get that from an entire event.
Okay. Cool enough. And you know, we could, I'm not going to exclude SCA stuff
Mhm.
because I play in the SCA as well.
Yeah. I know our limits.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to Christopher and then to Alan. So Christopher, what's been your favorite event to attend and why?
Well, there's a couple that actually occurred in Providence, or at least in that Providence area of Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
And one particular group called the Quinebaug Rangers always were very instrumental in doing a 17th century reenactments throughout the Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and of course, Connecticut. I followed them for a number of years, at least with the groups. And so as far as an attendee, I always thought they were doing a very good job of recreating some of the history associated with that. And at one point, Smith's Castle in Warwick, Rhode Island, that was a living history day that actually had a lot of events. And the people there were incredibly friendly and really knowledgeable about the time frame. It was done primarily like the King Philip War era. In fact, Smith's Castle was a staging zone for a raid onto the Narragansett Indian tribe. But the one thing, as far as what I remember being the most fun, at least being there for that entire day, was, you know, just seeing the people and doing the things that they were historically, mainly it was the lectures and things like that that they were presenting in that case with the King Philip War. And of course the house itself is a 17th century reconstruction. So, and it's period. And so everything felt very authentic in that sense. And to be honest, as far as I have ancestors pretty much who have settled into those areas back in the 17th century. So yeah, just a connection for myself, genealogical references, and trying to get a better understanding of where my, you know, I guess the pioneers and from Plymouth to Hartford to every place like that. So then in a way, it sort of connected me with the those events that my ancestors would have been in that same category, at least looking at what they were actually experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, getting back to your roots, I mean, my girlfriend and I had a similar experience. Rebecca has is related to somebody from the Mayflower, and we just went to Plymouth Plantation, and she got to, and we actually got to see the Mayflower too. And so for her, connecting back to family origins, you know, kind of was important to her. So, all
That's
right.
correct.
Well, yeah, go ahead,
And,
Christopher.
oh, I was going to say the only other, you know, my actual Plymouth relative actually came on the second ship.
No,
So
okay.
he was just a young man who came in the Bumpus family. So they came in just after the first arrival, at least for the English colonists. So
You know what happened to the original Mayflower?
no, I'm not sure.
I believe it ended up being the roof of a barn.
Oh,
They
that would make
used the
sense.
timbers to make a
Yep,
barn.
all the timbers. Yep.
So, okay, real quick, I just want to, because we're already about 40 minutes into this. We're going to get to Alan next, and then we're not going to get to all the questions that I have on my list here. So I'm going to narrow it down to the two. One is going to be how do you hear about events, and through their promotional materials, what makes you want to go to an event? And if you could have your dream event, what would your dream event look like? So, Alan, the question we're posing to people is, what is your favorite, or what's been your favorite living history experience? And it doesn't have to be 17th century. And why that was your favorite experience. And we are running a little short on time. So anyway, go ahead, Alan.
Okay. I'm going to make it short and sweet. First of all, I'm honored to be asked on 17th century squares. I'm looking forward to meeting Ruth Buzzy and Paul Lind. But yeah, this Zoom is kind of new to me. I'm a caveman. It's the second Zoom I've ever done. Now, the most satisfying reenactment I've ever done, I was in part of the production of the last Alamo movie, the one that had Billy Bob Thornton and Patrick Wilson in it and stuff like that. And about a year after the film was done, for the film, they had built the town of Bahar and the Alamo full size. And about a year later, they had an all inclusive, just reenactors, no public invited, reenactment of the Alamo on the set. And I caught myself not being able to sleep because I knew the Mexicans were out there. It was really, it was the most real event I'd ever been to. Now, while that was satisfying, the other satisfying thing that I find in reenactments, because I started reenacting when I was 13 years old. I'm 55 now, so yeah, it's an addiction and an expensive one. But I've come to peace with it. Now, I was schooled by some very high standards in the 19th Century Living History Association, Incorporated, and I brought those things with me to the Renaissance Festival because I had other reenacting friends that did a 17th century unit, the Duke of Buckingham's Lifeguard Afoot. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And I got all my gear there and did that. But I brought the authenticity to the fair, and years later, I started doing historical interpretation at the fairs. And I had to find a way to take the information that I had, this ultra complicated terminology and stuff like that, and make it palatable for the average person, because the Renaissance Fair is for the people who go there, not the people participating in it. So I find that if I combine those two into any reenact, I get a good, well-rounded thing of having a good time myself, finding the authenticity, but also making it accessible and interesting to the public in a way they can understand.
Cool. And I've seen you in action doing it because we worked together for years too.
Yeah, we have the same probation officer, don't we?
Yeah. Lenny,
She
right?
wants you to check in.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you, Alan. All right. So just real quick round table. What is the way that you find out about events through whatever media, or where do you usually find out about events that you want to attend? And is there anything in their promotional material or anything where you look at what's being presented to you and go, that's what I want to go to. I want to go to that event.
So you're doing this for reenactors or general public?
Let's say for reenactors for the time being. For somebody who wants to go and participate in a living history event, doing the actual living history. Let me start off with Gus.
These days I mainly find out about them through Facebook. Word of mouth is kind of like really broken down. It's no longer like somebody calling you up and saying, hey, I heard of an event happening. Nowadays, everybody's basically publishing on Facebook, here's my event. It's months down the road, it's years down the road. So as far as what makes me go, it really comes down to, do I have the gear for it? Simply because if I don't, or if I have very little, it's going to involve having to kit out. And, you might have the money now, you may not have it, in a week or a month or however long. So that's really how it comes down. It's like, do I have the gear enough that I'm passable, or I have the whole thing? I mean, because if all I have is a hat or, pair of socks, it's not really going to work out as well as if I had more that I could, at least fit in some respect.
Well, I'm glad you brought that point up. So if there was an event that had loaner equipment or loaner kit, would that help to remove a barrier to going to that event? If somebody said, hey, come on out and, we'll supply you with a uniform and what have you, would that make it more likely for you to attend that event?
It's possible, but, I guess because I've been in this long enough, to me, it's kind of almost more like, I want to have my own stuff. But, if you've got somebody who's just starting out, you don't want to discourage them because, well, I don't have anything and I don't have disposable income, whatever. It's better for them to have the loaner stuff. so that way they can at least get a taste of it. But that's just me. I mean, the
Oh,
next
that
person might
flavors
say,
up
"Hey, I'm
three.
getting
Some of these places are okay.
Hey, I'm gonna mute you. But I am gonna come back to you in a minute. Okay. Thanks, Gus. All right. So Sophia, I'm gonna ask you next. How do you find out about events, and what makes you say I want to go to that event?
I like this question because starting just going to events, what I'm really missing is the one place to go to find about all events. I don't care where it is, a website on Facebook, but I would love to have one place where I can see all events happening globally.
Okay.
That would be my dream, right?
Okay.
Because
So you're saying you would love to have one place where all the events are listed, that you could go see all the different events. Is that, am I understanding?
I see that Facebook, yeah, exactly. So there are Facebook pages or groups and websites which are not up to date. So when you search on the internet, you find that stuff, but it's not maintained, right? So when I started off, I was desperate to find all the events happening, right? And I now get them through contacts on Facebook, and I'm getting, send stuff and recommend, but there's not that one place as a starter I can go to and see all the events, and I can say, okay, this is in my area, or this I can travel to. That would be my dream, right?
Yeah.
It's probably different, right? Because obviously it's so many things going around the globe, but that would be perfect, or at least by continent, let's say, for you guys in the US and for us in Europe. At least you have that somewhere listed, right? And then you can pick out. And, So I'm just counting on Facebook contacts. Sometimes through the internet, mouse to mouse, right? And I have nothing in my area here, so I need to drive always a few hundred kilometers to get somewhere. So I'm kind of trying to pick and see through recommendations what might be good to go. So I'm planning now Palma Nova, for example, in Italy, which is like 700-800 kilometers. Upgo Dutch Krolle is also 600-700-800 kilometers, and I'm willing to drive, right? I need to find the stuff, right?
Okay. So as far as determining whether or not it's an event you want to go to, you're going off of recommendations from people that you know? Is that what I understand?
It's a mix of things, and recommendation from people, especially like reenactors who's been around since a while doing reenactment, right? So they know what's the good events.
Okay.
Distance, right? Can I manage to drive there somehow? Because I have no one to accompany me. I'm kind of alone with my passion here, so I need to drive there alone.
Yeah.
Location, of course, a nice location is tempting, right? Like Botanga.
Okay. All right. So location and
also in a way that I'm now getting to know people. If I know there are certain people I've met and I like, so it's also good to know who's going there, right? And to see whom I can meet again, or who I haven't met yet, but I maybe in contact on Facebook, and it's so many interesting people. So that's also an aspect, right? Too.
Cool. All right. I'm going to go to. We may go a little over. If you need to go, just let me know in the chat. I'll understand. So Harry, you spoke briefly about your reasons for wanting to go to this ECW event, and your tie-in was history, with the Marquis of Winchester. Is that right?
Marquess
of Winchester. Okay. So would I be correct in saying your reason for wanting to go to that event is finally I get to go to an event? Is that pretty?
Well, yes, there is that, but also the period of history they cover. See, each regiment of the English Civil War Society usually does a specific part of both the country and a time period. Now, because I live in Wales, the Winchesters is my local regiment. because unfortunately there aren't any in Wales. So I have to be aligned to a regiment in Hampshire.
Okay.
I know that's how it is, but so therefore that's how it goes. Because that's the nearest, you see.
Okay.
And all the way it goes is you join the regiment, which means you automatically become a member of the Civil War Society.
Hmm.
And so therefore you get two streams of information, one from the regiment and one from the society in general.
So they're letting you know about events on a regular basis.
Pretty much, yes. I mean, they send out something about once every 2 or 3 months. It can be a little bit quicker, obviously. But what they always do is at the start of each year, towards the end of January, where you're a member of a royalist regiment or a member of a parliamentarian regiment, they all come together in January in central London. The royalists to commemorate, quote, the murder of the Holy King, unquote, and the parliamentarians to celebrate the murder, the defeat of royalism in the United Kingdom.
Right.
Which is when they have their AGMs and they come together to have an event. And that basically is the time when all the decisions for the year gets made.
Right. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to try to lightning round this. Theron, then Christopher, then Alan, then Heidi if she's able. Okay, so real quick, Theron. Well, let me. Is everybody pretty much finding out about things on Facebook now? All right, so that part of the question we can put aside. So when you're looking at something on Facebook for everybody else, what makes you decide what about that, how it's promoted, makes you decide you want to go to that particular event? Theron.
Okay, for me, it's going to first of all break down to, do I have responsibilities there that make me need to be there, whether I want to or not, because I'm a regional officer. So there are events that I go to because I have to go to them. For the events that I want to go to, what I'm looking for is, are people I know going to be there? Are there going to be things that I think are fun going on? If it is what I refer to as a cookie cutter event, where it's all of these, all these boxes are going to be checked off, then I may not be as interested, rather than if there's an interesting theme to it, or maybe they're doing a tournament that has a slightly different approach, or maybe there's some other interesting little activity off to the side. So those are the things that still attract me and bring me in. But a lot of it, being a 30+ year SCAer is momentum. Oh, I need to go to this one.
Okay. All right.
Doesn't mean I won't enjoy it, but that tends to be a factor for me.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Christopher, you're next. Lightning round. What makes you choose to go when you see the promotional material, Facebook, wherever? What makes you decide or not decide to go to an event? Is Christopher still with us?
Actually, as far as for myself, my events were just strictly for personal knowledge. So if it seemed like it was going to have a little bit more information, the lectures or anything associated with that, that would pretty much decide my, my ability to go, or at least the ability to gain more information in that category.
So as it aligns with your interest in the particular area of knowledge you're wanting to pursue, if it aligns up with that, that's probably a huge factor.
Oh, you're breaking up. I'm sorry.
I was saying that if it aligns with your interests, what you're wanting to pursue, that's a big draw for you.
Well, yes, my interests are, right.
Okay. All right.
Correct. It has to have some type of lecture series or something associated with that.
Okay. All right.
Or good food.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Or good food.
Or good food. Hey, food's important.
Right. If there's food being made and it's being, I'll take that too.
Okay. All right. Alan the 90, lightning round. What draws you to
Okay.
an event?
Okay, one of the things that I would strongly suggest, just like with Theron, you're looking for something that isn't normally offered. If you're putting together an event, know all the different things that are usual, but if there's something you can come up with that will spark the interest, I think that would work the best. That would certainly get my attention. Hey, they're doing a special thing on artillery, and they've got this dude here that's going to tell us about, he's the author of a book, blah 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 blah. Blah. That would be cool. But that also is kind of a niche because not everybody's artillery, but something that would be more common that everyone would be interested in that it isn't seen to be done.
Mm-hmm.
That's what would draw me.
Well, okay, Alan, I understand what you're saying about artillery. Not everybody does artillery, but really they should. Okay, Heidi, you're next. What?
Yeah, I'm gonna second Alan's. I'm gonna second Alan's suggestion that guys who blow stuff up are really cool. Hi, Alan.
Hi, Heidi. Love you.
Love you too. So actually, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just circle back to what everyone is saying. It is absolutely about the people who are attending your event, but also, at least with our event, I mean, yeah, absolutely, the chance to learn something new, to do something unique. I mean, that is 100% what draws me out in an immersive environment, and I am so happy to hear everybody echo that because we have been really pointed in trying to meet all of those needs. I mean, there are a lot of cookie cutter gatherings, at least locally. And there are a lot of gatherings where you just kind of sit and hang out, and that's cool. But I mean, I love learning new things, and I love learning new things with my tribe. So, I paid real close attention to what was bringing me out, and we really tried to, at least I did, really tried to, hit all of those boxes. And Tim himself, with his tournament, he is really, like for him and I both, word of mouth, knowing who's going to be there. As, I mentioned before, I've had some unpleasant experiences at these events, knowing who's going to be there, knowing that they're, people I know, people I don't know, but who look pretty cool, people who aren't going to shame me for my kids wearing sparkly sneakers. It's just so important. But yeah, no, I'm so happy to hear everyone say that. That makes me feel like I'm really in tune with the community,
Yeah. Well,
and also guys who blow stuff up are really cool.
Well,
that's
funny.
my own personal.
It's kind of funny hearing you talk about that, because the big reason why I wanted to go to your event and brought Rebecca along was because you had Francis class teaching at the event. And
yeah, and Meg, that class that she taught, that was actually supposed to debut at Jamestown, but Jamestown got canceled, so we were actually ground zero for that class. And
cool.
Her embroidery class, she's also doing an audience test because she's planning on offering that at Jamestown the following session. So in a lot of ways, we're breaking some real ground here.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. So the things that I'm hearing from people is, more of, is it within my travel area? Is it, are there activities that I want to participate in? Are there classes I'd like to see? Are there, and importantly, people that I'm going to feel I have fun with, that aren't going to look down on me, but I know, maybe I know these people, or I have a good feel about these people. I will say that one of the things that, for me, looking at events, as well as all of those other factors, is, and this Friday, you'll probably be able to relate to this, is like I look at the Slagom Grawl at their website, and I see photos of people doing the things, and in really nice kit, and so that's also kind of like, hey, photographs is like, hey, that's real. So along with everything else that everybody was saying. Okay, real quick, and this is probably going to be the last topic here. We're running a little bit over, but if you had your ideal event to go to, what would that look like? And I'm going to start off with Gus. Imagine, you'd have the your fantasy of, this is the kind of event I want to go to, regardless of period. What does that look like? Just real quick lightning round here, because we're going to tie it up here.
Sure, no problem. A good turnout of people for one, a good historical site, just things to do. I know some people are very fixated on the whole school, and I'm not necessarily meaning like what you intend to do later, but I mean, I've been to events where the whole program is, all we're going to do is drill, which would be okay if there was something to be gained out of it, if it was done on a regular. But if there's just something to do, either like a fight of some sort, or there's a lot of interacting with public because they're invited, things like that, that would be great. And just the fact that, if you have a good turnout, even better. Because I've been to events where it's like me and 4 other guys, it's like, well, we could have just gotten together at a restaurant or something and just, kicked around a war game, rather than like traveling so much to, all the way to just be with the 3 other guys, and that's all you do. So.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Theron, your ideal event.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is going to be an SCA event aimed at SCA rapier
Okay.
side of things.
Okay.
My perfect event is, we have a large piece of property. We build a town in the center of the property. We populate the town with people who are going to be in the town doing things. We give people a nice tavern that they can hang out at and do taverny things and have tavern brawls if they want to. We also have two significant camps on either side of the town, in which we can do either individual fighting, or we can do rapier melees, in the street fighting, that sort of thing. And try and have it to be one of those things of, once we kind of pull the trigger on the go time of the event, you are in your time. There's no time outs per se. So basically try and live in the whole situation, see what develops. I've seen some large events where things like this can happen, and you get some really interesting developments as alliances crop up, and let people play that, let people play at being, early modern people, and give them as much room to do that and play in the experience, and also get to sword fight a whole lot. And so that would be it for me.
Okay, cool. All right, Sophia, your ideal event. I think you're muted.
I would say a scenic surrounding, right? A good location, authenticity. So I like, good dresses and stuff.
Okay.
I would love cavalry, but it doesn't need to be there, right? Because I know the difficulties with horses.
Yeah.
And just kind of a good spirit, right? Between the people. But I think that would be nice, yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right, Christopher, you're next, and then Harry, and then Alan.
All right, for a great idea, at least, I like the idea of having a whole village set up, but it's a little bit more on the costly side, but that actually is great for its own events. I would say brawling is a little bit harder to accept, but I would say that the main thing is that I'm not too interested in recreating something like Plymouth Colony or Plymouth, or for that matter, Jamestown, or but I do like historic sites, and I do like places that I can just go, and of course have some type of a lecture hall or something like it would be my ideal. So I'll wrap that up pretty quick.
Okay. Cool. Harry, real quick.
Certainly. Well, all events with the ECWS are themed, and they're themed on where they are. So the three sort of things I'd like to see is the state opening of Parliament 1625 at Oxford, the raising of the King's Standard at Nottingham Castle 1642,
Okay.
and the trial of King Charles at Whitehall in London.
Okay. I would like to, that would be that trial. Yeah, I'd love to see that. I don't know if they could do it at Whitehall itself, but I believe Brigadier General, what was his name? Peter Young played Charles years ago. I think he's sadly passed away since, but he did a one-man show where I think they did something with the trial. But anyway, okay, so you have some specific events you'd love to see. All right, Alan.
Okay,
Go ahead.
one that sums it, the one that sums it up for me is the German city of Rothenburg on the Tauber. They do an annual thing about the history of their city, and it's a huge, huge 17th century event in one of the last medieval walled cities that there is in Europe, period. And they have modern amenities, they have period, you know, the overall look of the place is period. You got a great mix of reenactors, actors, and the public. And there's plenty of beer, plenty of reenacting, plenty of crafts, plenty of music, plenty of dance. And I would be with Theron in the idea of lots of rampant fighting would be great. I want to run around a town and kick the shit out of each other. It'd be fantastic.
Okay, cool. Well, I haven't answered in really any of the other questions, but I'm going to answer this one. Okay. And I've got kind of this long-term dream, if you will, that I want to do, that I'm kind of building up towards. So there is a site in Texas, and I'm going to share this, that it would not be cheap, but in my ideal fantasy event, would, you know, we'd have various instructors, we'd have a field battle, and it would be at this location. So I'll just play this real quick. Hopefully you can see this. So this is in Marble Falls. This is Castle Falkenstein. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but just enough to give you a taste of it. Come on. Joys of slow internet connections. Anyway, I'm going to
Nice.
stop it there.
Nice knockers.
Okay. So in my ideal event, it'd be a 3-day event. The first day would be essentially a series of, I guess, very similar to TED Talks. You know, Christopher, you're talking about the lectures, where you'd have different people come up on stage for about 15 to 18 minutes and give a short discussion on whatever topic, okay, related to living history. All right. And so you'd have, like, that would go on for 2 to 4 hours. And then you'd have a reception, and then you'd have, you know, well, probably just this reception the first Friday night. Saturday would be, there'd be a military track and a civilian track. And the civilian track, you could take any sort of classes, you know, on a variety of different subjects. Military track, you'd have drills, you'd have, you know, you might even, there is a range fairly close by. You could go do live fire musket exercises. And you do that during the day, and also have like fencing classes, things like that. And then at the end of the evening, there'd be dance available, you know, where everybody would be able to dance, and then do a period feast. And by the way, there would be period food throughout the whole thing, a period lunch where you're having dishes from the period, not just stuff catered in, but actual period dishes. The Sunday would be, you know, competitions like rapier competitions, but you'd also have a field battle. And apparently this castle has a nearby field where you could have a field melee battle, and then some sort of closing ceremony at the end. And there'd be civilian things on Sunday too, probably more classes or things like that. But that's, and you know, the people I'd want to have come in, I'd like to have Simon Spalding come in, maybe Justin Coyne. I'd love to have Petra come in, but I don't know if she could travel. You know, there'd be a variety of different instructors, guest instructors, that you normally wouldn't see. And this would be a big event. This is probably, I'm guessing, a $10,000 event, because last I checked on this site, it was around $3,000 for a weekend. Probably gone up since then to 4,000 or 5,000. But that's my fantasy event that hopefully one day I'll get to do. So on that note, we've gone just a little bit over, but I think that's okay. We started a little late too. Again, I'm going to do lightning round real quick. Any final thoughts before we close this up? I'm going to start with Christopher first. Any final thoughts, super quick, to close this out?
No, as far as I'm very happy with the lecture. It's Zoom meeting that we just had, very well presented. So hopefully I'll meet some of you in a reenactment somewhere in the near future. But that's something I'm hoping that, you know, that San Diego doesn't offer a whole lot of opportunities for 16th and 17th century. So
Yeah.
we have to get back to the East Coast again.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry?
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. All right. Let me go to Theron next. Any closing thoughts before we finish up? Theron, can you hear me?
Me? Yeah, sure. Now, other than thanks for putting this together, you know, I would love to have a non-SCA outlet for some of these things, you know, that's going to work with that schedule. You know, one of the problems we run into, as you know, in Texas is all the cool stuff happens up on the East Coast. So, yeah. Yeah, that's part of it. The other thing is I own one reenactor grade 17th century outfit, and I cannot wear it when it's, you know, 99% of the time in Texas. So unless I'm indoors.
That's why my event's going to be in February.
Yeah.
That's more wool conducive. So, okay. So, Sophia, any final thoughts from you?
Just thanks for having me as a newbie, and thanks for having me sharing my thoughts, and interesting to talking to you guys.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you. Yeah. Okay, Harry, any final thoughts?
Is this going to be a regular event?
You mean this Zoom meeting?
Yes.
Probably not, at least not on this topic. I may do other topics in the future. Regular, I don't know. at some point I will do some other Zoom event that will be 16th, 17th century oriented. Maybe probably a
Well,
completely
if you
different
do,
topic.
and if there's anything 17th century, you can guarantee my presence.
Well, excellent. If we're not friends on Facebook, go ahead and friend me on Facebook. I'd love to include you. So, all right, Gus, any final words from you?
Just that, thanks for putting this on. It was really great to have this little get together, in virtual, space. And hopefully we can get together at the Texas Ren Fair, because I think it would be great to have a collection of period correct people showing up and being dropped right in the middle of all the Viking whatever's. And you actually see Renaissance people at a Renaissance fair as opposed to being, the usual thing that they do there. So
yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I will just say this in closing. I am hoping, if everything goes according to plan, to be at the Scarborough Renaissance Festival in 2024, because I'm going to try my darndest to keep them open one more day after their opening weekend, because on the Monday of their opening weekend, there's a solar eclipse over the site lasting 4 minutes.
Right. Oh, wow.
Excellent.
Okay. Keep me posted. Well, maybe we can organize something around that. That would be cool. Yeah, first weekend is the weekend, because it's Harry, I'm going to warn you, it gets hot down here. It
I
really
know.
does.
That's why I want to be in the very start of it, not the end.
Well, Scarborough is hot from the start, and it's the hottest fair.
It is. Yeah, Alan and I both worked it, so we know all about that. Okay, Alan, final thoughts from you.
Not a whole lot. Just thanks for doing this. It's good to see other people suffering from the same addiction I have. And but yeah, it's really cool. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah. Hi, I'm John. I'm a reenactor.
Hi, John.
Hello, John.
Thanks for sharing, John.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. I tried to keep everybody, give everybody some time. I hope I didn't leave anybody out or anything. So I'll probably, Harry, to get back to what you were saying, I'll probably have something in the future, because I've always got stuff going on. I will be announcing my Academy of the Soldier event here pretty soon, so keep an eye out for that. And Sophia, I guess we'll talk online about, or let me just ask real quick, Sophia, with the horses, have you done much with 17th century cavalry, anything with horses?
No, not actively. So in theory, right? So I kind of research, but not actively. But I have a horse and I ride, and so I'm trying to figure out what options might be. But it's difficult, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, let's. I hope you continue to pursue that. I'd love to.
Yeah, it's working in my head right now.
Oh, I know how that works. My brain goes on even when I'm trying to sleep. Yeah. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun. It's really good to see all of your shining faces. And the next time I post something or have something, I'll let y'all know. So,
cool.
All righty. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and
Back again.
all righty. Y'all take care.
Too.
Bye.
Bye.